Hi, this is Rhonda, and I'm here with my personal land banker, Marcella Silva. I've had her on a couple of times. And hi, Marcella, how are you?
Hey Rhonda, I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for having me here. I love sharing all about land banking with you and your audience. And actually, I was thinking about going into what land banking is, but you have such a powerful story about land banking and you've kind of lived it, you and your family, your whole life. So why don't you share your journey with it, and it will kind of help paint the picture of what land banking is.
Okay, all right. As a child, I grew up in Fremont, and we lived off the hillside of Mission Boulevard across from Mission San Jose High School. And at the time, it was a two-lane road. Stevenson Boulevard, as we know it, didn't exist. And I do think that Walnut was a dirt road at the time. Mom would drive the car down this dirt road, which was what we called a shortcut to get to the hub, right? Fremont hub. My grandpa bought 3.5 acres of land there, and that was his first purchase that I'm aware of. He had the foresight to buy land in Fremont, which wasn't much of anything at the time, but now look at it, it's huge, right? So his second purchase was in 1980, and he bought a 2.56 acres off of Osgood Road in Fremont. It was a light industrial piece of property, and his friends made fun of him, and he did it anyway. He was an underground contractor and ran his business partially from the 3.5 acre where we lived, and then from the Osgood property also. But over time, he passed away, and my mom ended up divorced and managing both of those properties. So in 2000, she sold her the original 3.5 acres, and she moved out to Pleasanton to be closer to me, which was great. And she was able to pay cash for her custom built home in Ruby Hill from the proceeds of the original property that my grandpa bought. So I didn't really know there was a term called land banking. I had no idea. And it wasn't until years later that she decided it was time to let go of the Osgood property for a multitude of really great reasons, that she had held it for so long. And having met you, Marcella, and sitting in a seminar hearing about land banking, I just was jumping out of my skin, because I knew what Grandpa had done, and I knew what my mom had done in holding the land, but I just didn't know there was a name for it. And so knowing that I could turn an old 401k into a self-directed IRA and buy a piece of my own dirt, that was super exciting. Might not excite everybody, but having come from what I had learned from Grandpa, that was super exciting for me. So yeah, that's land banking, right?
Yeah, so just to take a step back, the Osgood property that you were talking about in Fremont, how much did you guys purchase it for, the per square foot price?
The per square foot price, I have it written down here someplace. It was $2.41 per square foot. Yeah.
And how much did you guys sell it for per square foot?
It sold for about $64.50 per square foot. So.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's like 27 times what you bought it for. That is huge return.
Yeah, and I know my grandpa knew he was doing good things, but he could have never, ever have imagined that something he bought for $2.41 per square foot could go that high.
The $64.57 per square foot. That I love that. And that is true land banking. I mean, you guys bought it when there was nothing there. It was literally dirt roads. It was farmland. Mm-hmm. And now if you go to Fremont today, what does it look like?
Oh, jam-packed with people and roads and buildings, and yeah.
There's no more land left, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So luckily he had the foresight to buy it, even though his friends were making fun of him, calling him crazy. And then you and your mom had the fortitude to hold on to it.
Well, honestly, I got to say, it wasn't even me. I mean, I was young and getting married and having babies, and I could have cared less about this Osgood property. But my mom, through thick and thin, and there was a lot of thin, she kept holding on to that property and renting out space and keeping it going, even when, you know, people told her, you know what, why don't you just let this thing go? It's life-changing that she held it.
It is. And I mean, I just love the fact that she followed kind of your grandfather's advice of always having that land. And she's told me before, I'm trying to remember what wording she used, but she basically said like the land was a safety blanket for her.
Yeah, that's how she feels, for sure.
Yeah. And so you guys were coming up on selling it. And at that time, you happened to meet me. But you were a real estate agent. I mean, it seems like you would have told your mom, you know, mom, just do a 1031 exchange and buy rental properties.
Well, actually, that was a conversation that she brought up with me. Was, you know, obviously she needed to exchange this into something else, no doubt. And being a real estate broker, just, you know, for my mom at this place in her life, and really everything she'd been through with, you know, the tenants at Osgood and everything, that just didn't give me peace. For her to then be a landlord, I don't know, it just wasn't settling in a peaceful way with me. And I hoped that I could help her come upon something that would be the right investment. And I just can't tell you, when I met you, there was no doubt in my mind it was right. Now she needed to think about it, you know, and of course, you know, make sure that everything was legitimate and her money would be safe. And so she was more cautious than I about it. I just wanted to get my 401k turned into a self-directed IRA quicker than I could possibly do it and buy a property. So it was a blessing that it was something that could be transferred through a 1031 exchange.
Yeah, I love that. I love that even though, you know, you didn't have the proceeds yet from the selling your land on Osgood, you wanted to get into your own property as soon as possible. So we helped you with the self-directed IRA. And I think your mom even did that too. She bought one with her own self-directed IRA and didn't even wait.
Absolutely did.
And since then, you guys did the 1031 exchange of the Osgood property, right? And you bought multiple properties with us, plus more money. How many square feet do you own now that we have purchased?
I own, you could help me with this because you're my land banker, but I own over 4 million.
4.6 million last I calculated.
I mean, that's such a big number, I can hardly think of it. And I purchased it at an average of 81 cents per square foot. So the beauty for me is that, you know, I had money that grandpa left that I was able to then reinvest. But even aside, had I not had that, I did have an old 401k that I could take and invest in land. And at 81 cents per square foot, like, that's affordable.
So affordable versus like a home. I mean, average home size is what? How many square feet?
Oh, I mean, average 2,000 square feet.
2,000 square feet. And what's the average per square footage price on that home?
Oh, I mean, at least 550 per square foot, at least. That's conservative.
I think the house I'm in is around $600 per square foot.
Yeah.
I don't think I would ever be able to double my money in the home that I live in. Versus the land, and you bought it at 80 cents per square foot. Imagine if you sell it for $5 per square foot, Rhonda.
Wow.
4.6 million square feet, $5 per square foot. Talk about multiples. What if it's $10 per square foot?
Yeah.
Or you sold the land in Fremont for $64 per square foot. I mean, that's the definition of wealth creation, and that's why wealth has been created through land throughout history.
Right. And you know, the thing is it's the longer you hold it, the more that it's worth. And so I guess I watched my mom, I watched my grandpa that use patient money, turn an old 401k into something that's really a generator of wealth, and then be patient. Because there is no such thing as a get rich quick, right? No, but you can be patient, and my land can grow incrementally while other developers around my land are developing their land just by osmosis. I'm earning money. I like that.
It's a compound interest at
Yeah,
the next level. We call it unearned increment here in land banking. It's amazing. We're sleeping and our money's making, I mean, our land is making money for us.
right.
That's the definition of a true investment, where we don't have to be there doing anything for it. It's working for us.
Yeah.
And that's why we want to help people do this.
Right. So I actually put together a little presentation of my own that if anybody's interested, I would love to share the full land banking story from, 1960s until now. And of course, wouldn't share it live online or anything like that, but I'm very open to sharing because you don't have to be wealthy to create wealth. You really not this way. And so the webinar that you're going to do is tomorrow at 5 p.m. And I just invite anybody who's listening to this who might just have curiosity and want to learn a little bit more. The factors surrounding the area where we have invested, boy, it's just super exciting what's happening there. And you've got to get on the webinar to learn about it. But it's worth the time that it takes to spend to listen.
It is. It really is, especially right now with just the crazy volatility and everything that's going on in the markets. And our goal is to help people create wealth through land, and not wealthy get wealthier, but the average person create wealth through land. I mean, minimum investment is 25 grand. It's easy to get into. It's not super expensive, and land really can create wealth for people. And like you said it perfectly, this is not a get rich quick scheme. And really, if you think about anything that's worth any time or any effort in life, does not happen overnight, right?
Right.
There's no overnight successes. Everything takes time.
Right.
And when you have that fortitude and that belief, it will happen. And
right. I mean, there were plenty of struggles where my mom could have just said, hey, you know what? I need to sell this. I got to live on this money. And she didn't. And kudos to her because, it really paid off in the end. But, speaking about other types of investments and what's happening with oil right now, oil took a dive. Oil took a deep dive, right?
yeah, it went under $0 per barrel. I was like, how's that even possible? That's crazy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm not surprised either, because this is something that we've at our company have been looking at for almost a decade now. We've known that peak oil has already hit, and it's never going to reach the prices that it has in the past. It's never going to recover what it used to be. And it's simply because we're going to stop buying and using oil for reasons that I'm not going to get into right now, but it's making our land very, very valuable. Our land is performing phenomenally right now, even with what's going on with COVID and what we are seeing in traditional markets. I mean, we're investing in places where growth continually happens, regardless of what happens in, like I said, traditional markets or even in the economy. And when you do land right, you can create wealth in really any market. So if anyone out there is looking at just kind of repositioning funds that are maybe underperforming or losing money, let's really truly make you some money. 401ks were never meant to create wealth for people. They're creating wealth for the people who manage them, not for the people who have them. Right. And we want to help you put that money to use. That's right. One of the many different sources of funds that you can use to invest in land. So yeah, tune into my webinar tomorrow, April 23rd, 5 p.m. Pacific time. Rhonda, I think you'll provide the link for them, and just learn about it. Doesn't hurt to learn something new, right?
Right. And in closing, so I'm a real estate broker. I could go buy my own land. I don't really need you, quote unquote. But I would never buy my own land because I don't have, I don't even know the information that you all have. This company's been doing this for 40 years in this specific location, and their vast knowledge is something that I wouldn't go and just buy a piece of property on my own. I would need to know that it had been investigated most thoroughly by your company. So super excited.
It's a science. It truly is. And you have to know how to do the right research and figure out the right numbers and ask the right questions and know where to look. And yeah, doing land investing, it's very tricky, very risky if you don't know what you're doing. That's why most people think of it as land speculation. And typically it is for the average person who tries to do it on their own because they don't know what they're doing. If you're going about it in the scientific, well-researched, well-mitigated way, then you can really truly position yourself to create the wealth that you're hoping for the future.
Yeah. Okay, Marcella, bye until then.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Rhonda. Great seeing you. Take care.